Welcome to another Mr. Huff and Puff podcast. This podcast is about injuries. Let's start with fractures. There are 4 types: compound, green stick, simple and stress. Compound or open fractures are where the broken bone causes the skin to break. Green stick fractures are common in young children. This is where the bone bends on one side and breaks on the other. Simple or closed fractures are where the bone does not break the skin. And stress fractures are injuries commonly caused through overuse. This is where a small crack forms in the bone. The symptoms of a fracture include pain, bruising, misshapen limb and swelling. Now apply your knowledge. Can you give an example of how a fracture might occur in these 2 activities? Now let's have a look at injuries to joints. Tennis elbow is a joint injury where the pain is felt on the outside of the elbow. It is often caused by poor technique or overuse. You can get this injury in lots of sports, not just tennis. For example, in badminton or golf. In golfer's elbow, the pain is felt on the inside of the elbow. Again, this can be caused by poor technique or overuse, and you can get it from other activities such as throwing. The pain in both these injuries is felt in the tendons, and this is because they are inflamed. Now we move on to dislocations. They can be very painful, and it is where one of the bones of the joint comes out of place. For this example, it shows a dislocated shoulder, and this is when the bone in the upper arm comes away from the shoulder blade. Dislocations are often caused by a fall or a blow to an area. An example of this would be falling when running and putting out your arms to save yourself. Now, let's look at sprains and torn cartilage. A sprain is a joint injury where some of the fibres of the ligaments are torn. It happens when the joint goes through a greater range of movement than normal, tearing some of the fibres. Examples of how you can get a sprain are through forceful twisting or overstretching the joint. Symptoms of a sprain include pain, bruising and swelling. Torn cartilage is a joint injury where small tears appear in the cartilage that acts as a cushion at the end of the bones. This can be caused by forceful twisting or sudden impact and stopping. Symptoms include pain, swelling and stiffness at the joint. Treatment for all of these injuries depend on the severity of the injury. More severe injuries will need further medical attention, such as a fracture. However, a common treatment for joint injuries to reduce swelling and pain is known as RICE: rest, ice, compression and elevation. Don't forget, you can strain a muscle and you can sprain a joint. You need to be clear which is which. Thank you for listening and joining Mr. Huff and Puff. I hope it has been useful and good luck with your exams.